Great. So this is the meeting of the Futures Subcommittee of the Expenditure and Revenue Study Committee on Friday, the 13th. We hope that has no significance at 9 o'clock. Let's do a roll call, please. Bernard.
Here.
Sadaf.
Here.
Cliff.
Here.
The chair is here, and we note Val is absent, so we have a quorum and we're ready to proceed. The first item would be the minutes of the meeting of the 6th. Do you wish that I bring those up? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah, motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
There was just one typo. It's,
Only one?
well, that I saw.
Okay. Tell me where.
The word was clear. It should have been clear and it was misspelled, and now I can't find it, of course, but
I'm sorry, the word was
clear. Let's see. Under next steps, Lincoln to send Bernard a clean version of the Moody's scorecard calculations, and clean.
got it. And it should be a clean.
Clean, that's right.
And Lincoln, you need to send that to
I
me.
just realized I need to do that. Sorry, thank you.
All right, good. Well, glad I
Thank
could
you.
help.
I should have pestered you, but I have other things going on in my mind.
No problem. Thank you.
I have made that correction. Thank you very much. So if there's no further discussion, we'll take a vote. Bernard,
Yes.
Sadaf,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
and the chair votes aye, and the minutes are approved. Let's see. I think the next item of business is a development memo. I am going to pull that up. Cliff, do you want the marked up version, or do you want the clean one?
Well, I don't really care. I think it's probably easier for people to see whatever changes have been made since last time, if they haven't, unless everyone's read it. I mean, there were versions like this being sent around yesterday, right? Or the day before.
Yeah, I mean, here is the I believe this is the most recent.
Yeah, and the difference, the only differences really here are that as we're looking at the recommendations, there were just a few clarifying words to put in, and I think they're
Right. I'm working on getting us a bigger version here, and you want me to scroll down to?
Yeah, I don't.
I think it's right in here, isn't it?
I don't know that we need to go through point by point. We're just conforming to make sure the document had the same language as the recommendation document that was prepared.
Which would be the actual vote document.
Correct.
Okay. Let me bring up. Give me a second here, sorry. I believe it does, actually. Can you guys read this, or does it need to be bigger?
I can read it. It looks fine. And
And
I didn't see this this document in the materials, the vote document specific to the
So this is nothing
the
other than,
summary at the beginning, right? Section.
yeah, it is the first portion of the larger discussion.
Yep.
And these are the languages that I think Cliff and Bernard were trying to work on together. So here it's the identify, primarily responsible for liaising, independent. And then the focus here is on the town administrator. A recommendation for evaluating the benefits of looking at the economic development function, that one that might report. Again, these are recommendations and nothing more. Suggestions about what that liaison person might do, should they be able to. The educational component, which really involves the idea that because these decisions are so important to the fundamentals of the town's financials, the idea would be to try to help educate our fellow voters, including the select board, boards and commissions, and of course, town meeting. And then a recommendation that, as you're all aware, because of the comp plan being underway, the suggestion in general has been to not do any major zoning work. So zoning has been kind of frozen for a couple of years. We've determined that the comp plan does not require any votes except by the planning board. So when their work is done, July, August, or September, we hope that they will have identified areas that the community had agreed upon in advance, and that upon that happening, we would recommend that the select board ask the town administrator to then try to proceed a systematic effort to both deal with the zoning bylaw, reflecting those changes, and to move forward where possible. And finally, the idea of streamlining, which was a concept that we saw in Bernard's original memo, among others, to try to see what we could do to simplify processes and give perhaps the planning board some abilities to grant special permits, particularly in certain classes of cases where the only standard is whether or not the change is not significantly more detrimental to the neighborhood. These are typically pre-existing non-conforming structures, and under recent Supreme Judicial Court law, the standard was changed. And the idea here is, let's not send folks to the planning board and then also to the ZBA, which is the current standard. So these are all pretty simple. Is there any question or discussion around these? Or if not, I would take a motion to approve.
Sergio?
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to add, I'm not going to object to this, but I just want to make a couple things clear in terms of the way I look at this. Two things. Number one, the idea that we are not looking, or we're looking for a liaison who has no connections to advocacy organizations, I think is just impractical. Maybe you'll find someone like that, but that person may not be the person you want to work on economic development type issues. And even those of us, I'd like to say, who aren't connected to an advocacy organizations, we have definite opinions that that are tied to the positions of the various advocacy organizations. That's my opinion.
I wonder,
apparently others don't agree, but that's fine.
Bernard, I think we've discussed, and I would encourage, you may wish to simply, I know you've had communication with Cliff on these points, but
Right.
would you feel that it would be useful if you were to give us a short paragraph that we could incorporate, perhaps as a minority report idea, and we'd be happy to put it in the, I mean, I would certainly advocate for including that in the report if the rest of the committee were to agree.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I did send you a memo
You did.
a couple days ago, and that's basically what I'd say about that, and the other issue being the other main issue being the economic development function reporting directly to the town administrator. I think that that's just out of line, actually, with the Town Administrator Act, but also just I don't think that's a good idea because
Right.
economic development has a number of other functions, and they really have to be a coherent, or they have to be carried out in a coherent way.
Right.
So that, you know, the director should be the one reporting to the town administrator.
Again, I think the language here is we're recommending that an evaluation of the benefits and presumably the drawbacks. So
Well, okay, I think, is that new?
this is partly crafted in response to
Okay.
the kind of concerns that I think that you had brought to Cliff and
Okay,
trying
I
to,
missed that. I'm sorry.
no, that's all right. In other words, we recognize that we may not understand or see all of the pieces. We have a concept or an idea where we thought would be useful, but we are trying to give room for the opportunity. So if the select board looks this over with the town administrator and comes to a different conclusion, okay, that could happen.
Yeah.
Conversely, you might find that it's a good idea. That's all. Okay.
Yeah, it's worth thinking about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any other comments? Can I get a motion to approve the vote?
Oh, can I add one other comment?
Go ahead.
And I guess this is based on the I think it's 8th version. And I'll put this in a little memo that you can do with what you want. But I think that the executive summary is not really consistent with the body of the memo where it talks about leadership. And I don't have it written in front of me, but I'll focus on that, and if that's still the case, I'll mention it in my memo.
Okay.
I do think two things. I think it's really worthwhile to take a look at whatever the most recent draft is, because I understand that first, this summary here, I agree, has not necessarily tracked completely what was in the memo, because they're sort of like worked on, frankly, by different folks at different times. We've tried to rectify that over the last 24 hours. So I would encourage you, if you're going to be double checking things, to be looking at the most recent version of the full memo.
Yeah, will do.
Yeah,
Thank you.
the other thanks. The other question I have is what it is that we are actually voting today and what was put into the agenda, because the agenda has a vote on the development memo. It does not have a vote on this summary.
Sorry, Cliff, this is the vote as far as I understood.
Well, discussion and vote on development memo. That's what's in the agenda.
What are you saying, Cliff?
Well, this is not the development memo. This is just a extraction of certain parts.
Do you want to vote the memo first?
Well, that's all I'm saying is that what is on the agenda is a vote on the development memo. That's what was posted.
Are you suggesting that we cannot take the vote?
I'm just making a point.
Yeah, well, I'm going to take some prerogative as a chair. This is now the third meeting where this memo has been discussed. And it would seem to me to be entirely natural that upon approving the report itself, that we would take a vote. So that's what I'd like to do. Do you want to vote the report first? I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna, from my own perspective, I want to vote the report because that's the memo. Okay, and I'm gonna abstain on any vote on this summary. Because I don't view that as being in the agenda personally.
So the report, which I'm pulling up, and I'm hoping this is big enough or I can make it bigger,
It's fine.
So,
is it starts off with this executive summary, which is in fact the vote.
fine,
It then follows to.
fine. I'm not gonna argue with you, Sir Jim.
Right, okay, so let's, I think your suggestion, however, may be a good one, which is that we're looking for a motion to adopt the report, which is here. It's the memo, as it's called.
All right, well, so maybe it's my misunderstanding. So let's just move on.
Say it again, please.
Move on.
Can we get a motion to approve the memo?
Motion to approve the memo.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the report? These edits, by the way, were picked up in the vote itself. And there really are no other significant changes or modifications here. This particular section we talked about a few minutes ago, which is the question of getting the comp plan to get approve certain areas.
So what you're showing on the screen is are the edits between
Correct.
the version 8 that was posted and the final one that you're.
That is correct.
Okay.
And they're fairly minor. Most of them are typos, corrections, clarifications. I'm running through it just so you can see that there's really.
Yeah, that's helpful because I read the one that was posted.
Well, let me run this all the way down to the end to make sure. So here's the section that we talked about concerning the planning board being given a little extra ability to grant a special permit in certain cases, for example.
Yep.
And that was picked up and
That was in the
incorporated
summary. Yep.
into the recommendations.
Mhm.
And I believe that is actually it. All right, so we have a motion that's been seconded. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I have a question as to whether or not we are approving also the exhibits that are going to be mentioned to be included in here.
The exhibits? Sure.
But my point is that the exhibit, are the exhibits attached is the question.
They are not here, but they are intended, if that's the question.
Okay, so the motion is to be approving the exhibits as well.
Correct. Thank you for picking that up. So the motion would include the exhibits. The exhibits, do you want to list them or?
I'd like to understand, yeah, I mean, I know one of them was the scorecard, which we talked about.
Let me see if I can pull up that information. It was actually in the report draft. Let me see if I can help for that. Hold on one second. Can you read this?
Yes.
Let me get to the development section. So it would be the report we looked at. And then the supporting information would be the RKG model. The first one had the methodology. The second had the actual results for 5 scenarios. There was Kara Bruton's presentation to us that showed the corrections of the error in that report. Exhibit D would be the financial impact model that was originally developed back in 2020, which is in comparison to the current model, the RKG model. The Brookline development scorecard that you just referenced. And then there was a little 3 slide document from EDAB, which we're going to include the non-EDAB projects that are showing sort of tax revenue impacts. And that's it. These would be appended to the report as exhibits and referred within the report to them in this manner.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Okay, so are we ready to do a roll call? Bernard, on the development report and exhibits?
Yeah, I'm not supposed to vote, sorry.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Sadaf,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes,
are you going to vote?
yes.
Yes.
Times.
And the chair votes aye, so that is passed. Thank you for that. Now, Cliff, what do you want to do about the vote? The vote language is nothing but the executive summary from that.
You're the chair.
I think we could vote it.
I mean, in the other documents as well, at least from our subcommittee, we just used that. We voted the whole memo with the vote language at the top. So
Yeah, I mean, that's another way to think about it. So the vote would simply turn out. Remember, we're making recommendations to the full committee. So we've passed this full report. And we're suggesting that the vote simply be the executive summary, which are the first 8 points, with the idea of just trying to bring stuff to the top. So I'm comfortable moving that as a vote for the full committee to consider. Can I get a second?
second.
Is there any further discussion? Then we'll do a vote. Bernard, you are going to abstain, I assume. So Sadaf,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
and the chair votes aye. And that will take care of this topic, I believe. All right. So our next item was to go to OPEBs. Cliff, what would you like me to bring up on that?
Well, I guess what I would ask is whether or not folks have read what currently is there for OPEBs, because it's expanded from whatever you've read before. It incorporates information that we talked about before, but I think it has perhaps a different context in terms of the breadth of what is there and how our suggestion for review is couched, which is that, we feel that this is, given the amount of money that we're talking about and given what's happened in the markets recently, and given the fact that Brookline seems to have made some good progress relative to where it was before on the Moody's factors, although we don't have a comparison scorecard, which, as Lincoln pointed out last week, is something that is also considered. What we're suggesting is that it really is, it would be worthwhile for the select board to have an approach of not being locked into what they voted last fall, and to be evaluating over the next couple of years what options exist, if any, to be able to use the money, assuming we reach full funding of the pensions, and also assuming there is no, although this isn't in here, it's sort of, I guess, something that I would certainly be considering. There's no new state regulation to require full funding of OPEBs by a particular date. That there may be opportunities to not reallocate all the money going into pensions into OPEBs, and to modify the OPEB policy to make sure that there is a formula, a date certain, that we'd look to fully fund, but maybe there's an opportunity to take some of that cash as well for some other municipal purpose, because there certainly are lots of needs, and there are a handful of suggestions, but they certainly are by no means all-inclusive or things that even need to be considered. It's really a question of whether or not a policy change could be made. And after consulting with financial advisors and even the rating agencies, that it could be made with the comfort that it would not be jeopardizing the rating, given the whatever it is that the idea would be to come up with a new funding plan for the OPEBs. So that's what the write-up now, I think, is pretty clear about, and that's all I would say.
Yeah, so I've tried to bring this up with the main points, which are essentially sort of not to prejudge it right now. And the suggestion is to appoint a group to keep an eye and sort of look on this over starting by a year from now, roughly. And then the various ideas that would potentially be looked at by that group. And some of the thoughts are included here, which of course the committee can choose to address or not. But the idea of a date certain, getting a funding policy in place, and then considering whether some portion of the funds might be used to a better purpose, including funding of reserves, budget deficits, possible underride, one-time capital uses, land acquisition or public-private, affordable housing, uses for lower moderate income, and any other town objectives. And again, all of these are nothing but ideas within the context of that whatever is done was done with Moody's and the town's other financial advisors, and depend on a conclusion that such modifications would not meaningfully impact the town's credit standing. Lincoln.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say it's been really good to engage with the subcommittee and particularly Cliff on this, because it's a subject that normally people don't want to engage on, and normally it's just Melissa and me talking about this. So I just want to preface it by saying that, and I just want to make a few points. I think I really appreciate like I said, Cliff thinking about this in particular. Just a few points I just want folks to be aware of. I think as far as getting any kind of ironclad assurance from Moody's or any other ratings agency, I do not think that's ever going to be possible. I mean, and I'll say that from past experience where where we had explicit conversations about our reserve fund balance, our reserves as a percent of prior year net revenue, and what figure is it, Moody's, that is going to keep us as AAA. And the clear message we got back is, we're never going to give you assurance that anyone, that you maintain any one factor X or Y, and that is going to maintain any particular rating. That's frustrating, but true. I think they approach it more like an art than a science. As a reminder, we're one of a few of the 14 AAA Moody's rated municipalities in Massachusetts where their rating scorecard would indicate that we're AA1, but nevertheless, they still rate us as AAA. And I think that speaks to the art, not the science. And the other way that goes is, I can tell you, we are never going to receive from Moody's anyway. I can't say with certainty from Standard & Poor's, because I haven't had this conversation with them. But from Moody's, we're never going to receive, if you do X, you will maintain your AAA. But all that being said, I just want people to know that. The other thing I wanted to say is, what I do think would be helpful, and I know the town has done it in the past with various boards and committees, is to bring Hilltop advisors, our financial advisors on all matters debt, in and speak with the subcommittee, with the committee, and give some more background about what this is. So I want to offer that up. I know they'd be happy to do that if the subcommittee, committee, et cetera, would like to do that. And then just the two last quick points. I do want to just reiterate, I know we talked about this a week or two ago, but I do want to reiterate that, in the last two actuarial valuations of our outstanding OPEB liability, that outstanding liability has risen by approximately $20 million in each year. So understood regarding not wanting the entirety of the pension runoff to go towards OPEB, but the magnitude of what the outstanding liability is and how quickly it's been growing. I'm just not sure how we'd get there, if it without significant large contributions, unless something fundamentally changes in the healthcare market, for example, right? I mean, the primary reason for that $20 million increase in actuarial outstanding valuation over year to year is because of the 12 and more % increases in health insurance costs. So, unless there's something fundamentally changing there, I just wanted to say that. And then finally, just a quick plug. We have, as a reminder, we have an open seat on the OPEB committee. So if you know anyone who, would like to further engage with this, please let us know. And hopefully that, the select board could consider your application.
Thank you. Cliff.
Thanks, and thank you, Lincoln. So, yeah, I agree with you that Moody's is never going to tell you, here's what you need to do. And maybe the language isn't quite clear. It does say reach a conclusion, but I guess that would have been for the town, and maybe with its financial advisors to, you can read tea leaves, right? Without being told. And if, first of all, you'd have to get to a point where you believed it was worthwhile having a conversation. And that gets really to your second point about the growth in the OPEB liability. I'd like to think that whoever is on this study committee is smart enough to go into this without the assumption that it's going to make sense to do something. But this is really looking to evaluate whether or not something could be done. Not that something must be done. And which is, I think, why the preamble was written the way it was, and even the last paragraph. The group everyone would have to come to a conclusion that, yeah, there's something that can be done, and it can be done with relatively little risk. That is an artful conclusion that would need to be made. And I think that's really important to emphasize, because I have no idea what the new actuarial reports are going to say. Part of the increase is clearly the increase in cost. It's also the decrease in assumed reinvestment rate, which has the effect of increasing liability. I don't think anyone would go into this with any preconceived conclusions. It's just that when you have $40 million, which currently is, what, 10-12% of the excluded non-CPA tax revenue, coming free, to have a policy that essentially says we're going to give 100% of that to one area. It's just something that should be evaluated. That's all.
Bernard. Bernard, you're muted.
Who muted me? Now, I appreciate what Cliff said. My only comment is down where it says, consider using a portion of the funds that would be freed up by modification of the policy to address one or more of the following. The only one that I think we should be listing here is the first one. The others, I think, would give and Lincoln should help me out here, would give Moody's and other rating agencies a sense that we're willing to use, this found money for purposes that relate more to our, ongoing budgetary needs than to our long-term financial strength, if that makes any sense. It says that, when we find money like this, quote unquote find, this is an opportunity to do everything from increase the housing trust fund to pay one-time capital expenses, et cetera. I think that maybe that is not a message we want to have out there for Moody's to see. That's just my thought.
Lincoln, your hand is up. Did you want to respond?
So, no, my hand was up. Actually, just as a very brief point of clarification for something that Cliff said, which is that that increase, that approximately $20 million increase yearly from the last few actuarial valuations of $20 million, it is not due in any way to a decrease in the expected rate of return. The expected rate of return has been for several years 6.9% for OPEB, and unlike pension, has not been lowered. The most recent pension actuarial valuation, it was lowered from 6.9 to 6.8%, but that hasn't been done for OPEB. So I just a quick clarification on that. Yeah, I mean, I think to Bernard's point, I mean, yes. You know, would I prefer that this just had one and not the rest? Yes. You know, is it, you know, but you know, I don't think it's likely, you know, that Moody's will read the whole report, to be frank. And you know, I don't think it's bad per se to say other, you know, maybe other areas and not be specific about those areas. I don't know. That's my suggestion.
So, Sadaf, did you have any, I mean, what I'm hearing here is that the only question that may be before us is whether we want to modify the language here in some way. So it includes number 1, maybe it includes number 8, I don't know, which is sort of very vague. And leave it to the appointed committee to determine all of the various things that are listed here as to whether they make any sense. But I don't know. Sadaf?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I can't speak to any potential implications of including this. I just don't have visibility into that. And Lincoln, I think you're going to be the person who does. The way that it's framed, the language that's used, it feels pretty innocuous to me. Around you know, recommendation to the select board. So I'm comfortable with this, but again, I defer to Lincoln and Bernard and others to the extent that you have better visibility into negative implications of this.
Well, and yeah,
Don't.
let me clarify what I said better. I'm not concerned about what the subcommittee or the committee's report would be. I'm more concerned if the policy changed.
Yeah.
You know, if the
but-
select board changed the policy, I think that's the thing that more would be a note of concern for me. So,
Right.
Yeah,
But on
okay,
the
I get
other,
it. But this is just we want to look at it, right? This, our recommendation
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
we think we should take a look at it.
I'm not-
It's not changing until there's
and
Yeah.
more work that's done.
I just want to be clear, if I may, which is that the select board might look at this and say, no, we don't want to create a committee.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, let me just add, I mean, my other concern is that Moody's may not read this, but there are a lot of people in the community who are going to read this and say, hey, my favorite or my pet project can be funded with this money. And, you know, put pressure on the select board and other people to go in that direction. So, I mean, that's another reason why I think we have to be very careful not to put something in here that opens up people's expectations unnecessarily.
Cliff?
You know, that this is a great, this is found money. Let's figure out what we can use it for, right?
Cliff?
You know, I appreciate, I really do appreciate those comments and concerns. And I guess, I mean, I'm happy to go back to the drawing board if people think that that's appropriate, and you know, modify this further to take out any non-financial ideas and sort of like leave it up to the study group, or maybe the select board asks the OPEB committee, whatever the heck that is, because I haven't really been able to find it on the website, to evaluate this. I mean, there's a lots of different ways to go. It's really the the idea behind it, right? Which is, don't necessarily lock us into a policy that we actually, in 3 or 4 years, things could change that we don't need, right? Or maybe there's, you know, if the state comes up with requirements like it did for pensions, then, you know, you could put together a schedule. And that's really the first point here, right? Which is that whatever it gets done, it's still going to have first a schedule to fund OPEBs by a date certain, which currently we actually don't have, right? And then it's when you have that and you have that approach locked in, what else what does that leave you with, if anything? Because as I understand it right now, the idea is, okay, we'll switch in 2031, take that $40 million and, within what, 5 or 6 years, get rid of OPEB, unfunded liability. I guess as a taxpayer, I would say that is putting a huge burden on the existing population that is already, borne the burden of making sure the pensions have been funded. And, I'm just thinking maybe there's a balance that could be had. That's all. I don't really care how this is written. I do care that mindset is in place to evaluate it and not be locked into what I currently feel we're locked into.
So Cliff, I hear what I'm hearing you say is you want to take this off the table for today and come back.
I mean, I'm happy to, if
Yeah, I mean, the only alternative is whether there would be consensus that we would modify the language here on the fly, and I don't think that makes sense.
I mean, we could, right? I mean, you could by taking out all of this bullet point and down, right?
Starting with what, 2 down?
Starting with,
2 down to 7 and leave 8 in.
yeah.
And even here under 8, are we okay just leaving it that vague, I guess? Or does this want to say financial or policy objectives?
Yeah,
Policy objectives is good.
Well, except that could be a housing policy.
It could be a,
Cool.
sustainability policy. It could be, yes, you're right. It's.
What about financial objectives? I mean, that is kind of open-ended too, but at least it's within,
How about, I've tried the word fiscal, is that?
Financial, fiscal or financial, I don't.
I think that's fine. I'm sorry, we're suggesting we remove the rest and leave 8 only?
Correct.
Well,
1 and 8.
1 and 8.
Okay,
So the idea would be that this whole section,
right,
Yeah.
the other options of, okay.
Not one.
thank you.
Right, the other ways you might use funding, that's fine.
Because
Okay.
look, that was just throwing stuff against the wall anyway, right?
What's that?
I said that was just throwing stuff against the wall anyway. It's not like we said.
That's
okay,
right. So the idea, the revised approach would be it would include 1, everything else would be struck, and we've added this word here. Is fiscal the right word? Bigger than financial, I think, maybe.
Yeah, that's fine. So,
All right, I'll take that as a motion. So let's vote the motion to amend. I'll second the motion if Cliff, you're making it.
yeah, that's fine.
And let's just vote on it. Sadaf,
Yes,
Cliff,
Yes.
and the chair votes aye. So we have this amended vote here.
Can I make a recommendation to you, Sergio, because you're going to redo this for inclusion for something to send to the entire committee.
Yep.
If you scroll down, I would not have the 2 bullet points listed separately. I would take that paragraph and say, and the ones above, and just sort of like make them into a written paragraph. Consider using a portion to address, the town's funding of its reserves or any other fiscal policies. You know, and just make it into a paragraph instead of a 1 and 2 list.
Well, I don't know, maybe.
Look, you know what, I'm happy to write that. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, anyway, so
Send it.
that's what we're talking about doing. Are we ready to vote this? So, as amended, we're voting on the vote. Sadaf,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes,
and the chair votes aye. So that is complete. Thank you for that. Next item of business. Let me just take a look at the agenda. The electric demand. So this is a new item. And I'm not sure if folks have had a chance to understand or read this.
I read it. I don't know if others did, but I had some questions as well when we get to it.
Yeah. Why don't you start us off, Sadaf?
Sure. So I think what I wanted to better understand is what kind of investment would this require? And as we put forward this proposal, which I think makes sense, but again, I'm a layperson in this
Sure.
sort of area. Is there a reason we haven't done this yet? And what would it take to shift to this approach?
So the answer is first of all, unlike the solar initiative where we had been using power purchase agreements, the third party, and we've moved away from that because it's been recognized that it was not financially valuable anymore to the town. In this case, I'm explicitly advancing the proposal that it be with a power purchase agreement. And the reasoning is as follows. First, under that arrangement, there is no capital required from the town. And given the debt situation that we're in, if we want to get our feet wet with this technology, this is the way to do it. Second, why now? First, Charlie Simmons, our director of buildings, who is well aware of the demand charge component of the electric bill, to his credit, has for a long time engaged in things which are directed around load shedding. And to his credit, those technologies have been built into our newer schools, Driscoll in particular, Pierce, and some at Ridley. And these are the ones that simply tell a piece of equipment, you know what, you can't turn on right now. You're going to have to wait 14 minutes and then you can be able to turn on. This device is a different strategy. It creates a set of batteries within the building, which can be deployed for many different reasons. There could be a power outage, and the batteries would provide power to the building. There could be the situation where it's necessary to cut the peak load. You know, it's an afternoon in September and the air conditioning is running. You don't want to interrupt that. There are people in the building. The battery would perform that function. So does that give you a general sense of the idea?
Yeah, it's helpful. And so in this model, the batteries that would be installed in the buildings, those are owned by the company through which you purchase.
That is correct.
Okay, so there's
They're
no upfront
responsible to
for
get
maintenance.
them, buy them, install them, maintain them, and at the end of their useful life, generally remove them.
got it. And
Now,
how do
we
you,
pay for that. We pay a price for that.
right, through the service agreement or whatever. that-
Exactly. In other words, we are being charged for each kilowatt hour from the battery
Mhm.
at a rate which is higher than we would get from the normal utility cost, but less than what the demand charge would bring that to. So it's a kind of a, you know, it's an improvement.
Right. What is your take on, it seems like, and this is only recently available, right? So this is.
That's really what brought this to the table, and it's only been in the last year that these have really come into their own for reliability and for the fact that there are now many reputable PPA folks who are in the market.
I see, yeah, so that's not something I was.
Right.
aware
So
of. What do you, oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, what is the order of magnitude of the savings, right? So the demand charge I see is 25 to 40%, but then you pay more per kilowatt hour for energy you get from the PPA or from the battery that's stored. What is your take on what the cost savings might actually be here?
we don't know. We don't know because it needs an analysis. And one of the advantages of the PPA approach is that they do the analysis and present that information to the town. And the town can say, thanks, but no thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Or they may say, you know, it makes sense to do it in building X and Y, but not in building Z.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the questions here is really that what is the burden on the town? The burden on the town is going to be in the building department, perhaps, and in the sustainability division, perhaps, because my image would be that in the same manner that Alexandra is now working to coordinate the solar installations, she would be likely the one who would need to go into the marketplace, attract the PPA folk, and then in conjunction with Charlie Simmons in the building department, provide the bills, you know, that kind of stuff. So yes, there's some administrative load. And I think the vote, which you'll see in a minute, is really along the lines of encouraging the select board to put this matter before sustainability and the building department for their consideration and evaluation. So this would go to the expenditure reduction side of our
Right.
recommendations.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Actually, one final question. Given that this is relatively new, for, I guess, non-solar, um,
When you say non-solar,
well, I mean, because the PPAs for solar have been around for a long time, right? So
Yeah.
this, but you said that it's only within the last year where this,
it really is related to the fact that the battery technology has improved dramatically. And then because of that, many of the same companies who are doing PPA for solar are now offering the battery initiative.
got it.
In fact, today, if you go in the marketplace for solar by PPA, they
Mhm.
will offer the battery option. It's
Okay.
kind of like, would you like to have this as well?
I see. Okay. I'm curious if other communities have adopted this, or it's sort of early days.
To my knowledge, the answer is yes. I'm relying here on work that was done by a member of ZIAB who has looked at this nationally
Mhm.
and is seeing market penetration already underway. But if you ask me, you know, has Arlington done it? I don't know.
Okay.
Again, I think this is more in the nature of here's something that we should pay attention to. And to the extent that the departments have any bandwidth where they're able to look at this, I'm saying it would be appropriate and to have it on the radar. How quickly, I don't know. But the problem is big and getting worse.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions on this part? Let me see if there's so let me pull up what I'm suggesting might be the vote if the committee were willing to consider it. Which is really,
Hey, Sergio,
yeah,
I have to run off to my next meeting, which unfortunately is not on Zoom.
okay.
So this sounds like a great idea. We're asking, that we study it.
That's it. We're just asking here,
thank
you
you.
can see it right here, right?
Yeah, good.
To investigate.
Yeah.
That's it.
And thank you for that, for your questions. I mean,
Sure.
very helpful to me anyway. Okay, see you later.
Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you.
So here's a suggested vote. If you think this is sensible. The focus here is investigate, and I'm suggesting that it be done through this group, but only because I think those are the ones who are most likely to have the knowledge. And I'm suggesting ZIA because I think there's a knowledge base there that could be helpful to the town staff, just as they were on the solar initiative.
Yeah, I think this is a reasonable,
Yeah, and the conclusion you can see here is to seek the evaluation of the opportunities and the costs. Whether you go ahead or not remains to be determined.
right.
I did want to tell you that I did share the memo with Charlie Simmons, and he was very supportive.
Okay, great. That was the other question that I forgot to write down, that I had. So you shared it with
Right.
Carly and then like
He-
Alexandra Vecchio or anybody else on the.
Alexandra is not aware of this. And I think that's the next step, probably. We should share the memo with her. But I was very pleased. Charlie felt that this was absolutely spot on. So, and he liked the language of the memo because, as he said, it's in English. Meaning somehow it didn't have a lot of technical gobbledygook.
Yeah, it's accessible, so to speak.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. That's it. So this is for your consideration if you want to take action.
So I'm comfortable voting this. I did read the memo. Obviously, I had some questions. My questions were answered. If the group wants to vote on this, I'm comfortable voting on this.
Cliff, did you have any comments?
Nope.
Would you like to move it?
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Okay, so let's do a vote on the draft, on the memo for electric demand management. On a roll call, Sadaf,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
and the chair votes aye. So that's a 3-0 vote here. We can slip into here. And that takes care of that. And now let's go and see what else we've got on our agenda. I think the only item left, if people are willing to take a minute, is the most recent version of the full report. And I think I would value the opportunity of talking about it. So let me just bring it up. One question I was looking for some feedback on from Cliff and Sadaf. Have you looked at this sort of opening stuff? the context, which is really referring them folks back to the town and schools. And therefore, it's important that our report has information which is not included, but is included elsewhere, basically.
So the way this looks in the outline is that all of the background and context information is not in the town and school reports, it's just in a common section. So there's the two common sections, there's the recommendations and the background, and then all of the reports. So I would frame it as the background sections of the full committee report or something.
Refer to the, yeah, I mean, you're suggesting that this either be the appendices or the supporting data, or is that what you're suggesting, that we add a clause here?
Well, what I'm suggesting is that if you're looking for the sections that have detailed context and background
Yeah,
around, commentary around the structural deficit or background on the GIC, et cetera, that is in a background section that is common to the whole report. And so it's
so
not.
do you want to add the words here to the background sections?
Yeah, so I refer to, and you can put a placeholder in here if you want, and we can, once we finalize that section or put in brackets, rename it the background section of the full report.
Got it. All right. Then the structures just explains the fact that we divided into 3 groups.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Everything here in the introduction seems to me belongs in the introduction of the overall report, and that each subcommittee should not be having this detail.
well, you may be right, and it may be redundant. I think that what caused me to include it here was because our report, perhaps unlike others, is a little bit more of a standalone. I'm willing to be, guided. And if everyone feels it's redundant, we could certainly consider that.
I
So,
guess it goes back to where does the full report introduction sort of stand, and what is that going to look like? Because it should include the explanation for what each of the subcommittees' work was, right?
Yeah.
So it does. It probably the details of what each subcommittee did still needs to be expanded on, but there is a section that had been drafted by Jesse, and so I think that's the baseline, and then we would add our sections, right? So I would pull from your purpose, but I think that it is helpful to have this because we can add it to the full report, but I don't think it needs to be repeated, right? So,
Okay, so you're suggesting that this section also may have the same
that's right.
redundancy and
And I think in theory, A does as well, where you can either say, like, for context, you can refer back to the main, the background sections, or assume that the background sections have already been reviewed because they're part of the main report before anybody gets to this part. So
Okay. All right, so I'll leave these in highlight for now,
that's fine.
just to flag them.
Yeah, and to the extent that we want to converge this in the master report or edit, these sections. Same thing with membership. I mean, membership is covered in that section that Jesse wrote. I know that Janet had sent that to Sergio, to you and me as well. I know you've been heads down working on that, but that is in the intro of the report, and we can take a look at it. And I sent that document to you yesterday sometime.
All right, so I think these are all fair comments. What about this section D?
What?
First of all, it's not, it's not actually organized exactly this way, but the idea was the one I had mentioned at the full committee. Cliff, you weren't there, which was whether there any benefit in thinking about everything that we're doing as to being into these two categories, right?
So that is how we have the school section organized, and that is what I'm proposing the town section, how the town section also be organized. So I think there's a cost reduction section and a revenue enhancement section. So the structure is consistent with the schools and hopefully eventually with the town.
So then if this is a valid idea, have I got this part right? That our reductions are the solar. I put OPEB here with
Yeah.
but that may be wrong. And there may in fact be a problem that there may be a third category, which is neither an expenditure reduction nor a revenue enhancement, but rather
In
something.
other, yeah. So we also have an other category for other things that were looked at.
Um,
And I would put OPEB there. It's more about reallocation for our.
so you suggest that idea.
Yes.
What about the school model?
School model, I think, is clearly cost reduction.
So you're okay with it here?
Yes.
And then are we in agreement that on the enhancement, it's really the development policy?
Yep.
Okay, so the rest of this looks right. Okay. All right, then we go into this notion that I had about pull to the front of the report, the stuff that we want people to focus on. I don't know whether this is needed or not. This is the overlap discussion. But the point really here was the time horizon. I don't know whether we need this as a intro or not. But that was the idea. It's an intro, really.
Again, it's hard for me to comment without really seeing what.
So let's put this in yellow.
I would highlight it. I think that the objective of the futures subcommittee is covered in that introduction. And I would put it in the main background of the full report.
Yeah, or maybe I don't. Yeah, okay, fine.
I mean, you can certainly leave stuff for now. We don't need to make that decision when we see.
That's right. That's right. We're just going to go through and flag stuff. All right. So then we get to the recommendation section, of which I think there are a total of 4 at the moment, or maybe 5. And all I've done is I pulled the executive summary from the report and placed it here as the executive summary. So this is the exact wording that the report begins with. And then I put in the recommended actions and the votes, which in this particular case was done, right? Both the report was approved and I'm sorry, this is the report and the other is the vote. Yeah.
So,
And again, maybe this is redundant.
question,
Yep.
how do you come up with 301? Where's the 1?
Why is there a 1?
Yeah.
That's kind of a graphics problem. I'm not sure whether I was consistent. No, I wasn't. So you want to remove that? We can.
Well, I mean, if someone isn't allowed to vote, then they can't abstain either, right? Because that's a vote.
I'm sorry, are you asking about this?
Yes, yeah. There are only 3 voting members. on this subcommittee.
So that's what you're saying.
Yes,
Got it. Understood. I thought you were asking about this one out there. Okay, got it.
aim for the next one, Sergio.
Thank you. All right, so that was the solar. Next came OPEB. I put this little intro in here because the vote doesn't really give that. So I don't know if you're okay with that, but then what follows is I think what we just voted with the preamble and the accordingly, and now this needs to be corrected. Right?
Yes.
Because basically we just took this out. I think the word we added was fiscal.
Yes.
And now, Cliff, you're suggesting that,
Sergio, I will,
yeah, you can massage this. So I'm going to highlight it because it'll remind us that it's going to get massaged. And this conclusion remained. So that was the end of that. So we voted this. Okay. Then the development, which we also voted. And again, all I did is I pulled the front end of the report into the executive summary. And that this was voted to send it up to the full committee for inclusion. Okay. Now, the schools, I didn't quite know where this all came down. We have this funny story, right? It was actually never voted by Futures, to my knowledge. It was voted by the school subcommittee. But it's here. And so I tried to understand, is this what we want to do? I recorded the votes that you gave me, Sadaf.
Yep.
Are you including the school model in the school subcommittee or not?
No,
No, okay, so this is where, this is its home.
That's right. I mean, that's what we had agreed to. So
Yeah,
I don't,
I'm fine. This is good. So this is correct.
Yep.
Then we had, see, I don't know how far I got it here. Yeah, so this also was voted.
So Sergio, the primary question I have about this and how you have structured this draft
Yeah,
is what the full documents on each of these. Well, I have two questions.
yeah, so that's a very good question. So I want to talk a minute, well, we can come back to it. I have this funny category that we may not need. But then what happens is that it actually, the full report for each of these would appear here. So they're the first item.
I see. With their corresponding appendices. Okay, so because the thing then I'm trying to reconcile is that there is an executive summary
Yep,
in our outline that is for the full report. And that executive summary, the first part is what's the overall recommendation for an override? Nobody's volunteered to write that. We also don't have that full recommendation. Then right after that, there's an executive summary for each of the reports. The beginning of your report looks like the executive summary for the town section. I assume that based on this, what you would then put as an executive summary for the full report would be a distillation of the recommendations, maybe without the vote detail, so that it's a succinct top line summary of the work that this subcommittee.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, my thought really was that you would just pick up the executive summary and it's right here. And that
Yeah,
would,
for each of these and then put it in. I think that's fine.
right? I mean, and just dump it into the main report.
I think that's fine. It just, there will be some redundancy and maybe we can sort through that later.
You mean because it'll show up again? Well,
Yeah.
one thing we could do is let's make the following. Supposing this became a part of the main report,
Yep.
then this might only say see main report. And you could just take it out of here.
Yeah. Okay, so let's keep it this way for now. I want to see how the town.
Yeah, I mean, the other potential is that somebody is going to look at this for the main report and say, well, no, I want to change the wording or something, I don't know, in which case the main report would have a different language. But my thought was that this would literally just get
Pulled into the main report.
right without having to do a lot of thinking.
Yeah, okay. I just
And
wanted
if
to
you
be
guys
clear
think
with
that it
Bill.
becomes redundant, I would see no problem if the futures report simply said see main report,
Okay,
something like that. So that would just make this life, much easier. Now, I wanted to go back. I put this topic heading in here. I don't know where it belongs. Maybe it belongs in the appendix. The idea was simply to say that we considered a lot of things that didn't necessarily make it. And as I look at the list, I'm not actually seeing anything that we didn't incorporate. So there may be no value to this.
so number 7 is kind of still in flight.
Oh, that's a good point.
And that would be, I think that would live in the school section.
So we could take it out of here.
I think you can take it out of here.
So if it comes out of here, is there anything in here that's of any value? Maybe none. We just get rid of it.
I don't see anything that warrants keeping it in here.
Yeah. So I don't disagree. I'm inclined to we'll just get rid of this now, right? We don't need it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now here, this is where the meat and potatoes presumably would be, and the exhibits. There's some work that has to be done here about this needs the same formatting, it just hasn't happened. I think Cliff and I went through and confirmed that the OPEB and the exhibits and the development and the exhibits are correct, but Cliff, you can check this. And then we had this conversation about, I don't quite know how to handle the voluminousness of the material and the fact that some of these are in formats like here's a PowerPoint. How do you incorporate that into a document? How do you keep the whole file from being too big? I'm just not sure how you
Well,
do it.
you convert PowerPoint into PDFs. You convert everything into a PDF.
It is actually, if I'm not mistaken, it is already, so that's a good point. So
I
you're,
think it's
Go ahead.
still probably gonna end up being a big file.
Okay.
It just even with the PDFs, I think the question is how much can we compress the PDF? That requires a subscription, an Adobe subscription that I don't have. I assume somebody on this town side has that. Um, it might be a big file. I think that's fair. And we'll just have to see where it lands.
Now, based on what we just said, this whole section should come out. The building maintenance, because that's in, this is the Carroll Initiative, so this all belongs in schools. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so this comes out.
But actually, can you undo that and then just send me that list of the documents you were tracking? Would you mind just emailing that list to me so I can track which ones you were looking at?
No, I understand.
And so this is hopefully being covered on Tuesday, the 17th. Sergio, I know you're away. I can't make that meeting, unfortunately, but I'm hoping Carol can attend and it is on the agenda for the 17th.
Yeah, I mean, part of what I have to do is to alert Nicole about what has to come up on the 18th for the full committee, which I think are the 3 votes that we took today and the reports associated with them.
Right.
I'm not going to be here to talk about the electric demand, so I don't know if there's a problem there or whether I should try to tee up Charlie Simmons to be available for that.
I think it might be useful to answer questions, if you can tee that up. I don't remember if, I believe the development memo and the OPEB one is on the agenda already. So I sent that to Nicole yesterday. So this one would be net new addition to that agenda.
I'm sorry, again on that?
Yeah, so I was saying that the agenda that I had proposed yesterday via email.
Yes, which we saw.
Yep, does not include the
Right,
demand.
it needs to be amended.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. So going back to where we are here, I think we're basically done, other than I don't know whether I may just be overdoing the whole solar backup. What do you guys think? Here's a question, for example, the solar, there should be financial. There were 2 presentations that were made to Futures by Vikram. They have a lot of very useful information in them, which is kind of why I was trying to preserve them. This is in the appendixes now, right?
Yeah.
Also, where does this go?
I'm not including any information on meetings in the school section.
Cliff, wasn't this kind of a historically part of the record somehow that we always tried to identify?
Well, I don't recall, I don't recall that, but the fact is that all the meetings, unless I'm mistaken, are already listed on the town website for the overall committee, which also has subcommittee information. So at the end of the day, you can,
You're basically saying this is redundant,
well, I mean,
not
again,
needed.
this to me is something that if you're going to talk about how many times people have met, it's going to be in the full report introduction. The full committee met X, and these are the subcommittees met X, Y, and Z. You know, it's just
Yeah, all right. So I'll take it out of here. And then as it turns out, it is my understanding, Cliff, that after we went through that whole thing, there are no appendices documents for OPEBs and development. The ones that were relevant, we included in the report as exhibits.
correct.
So that takes care of that. And then the comment I made here was that the financial impact models started as a standalone, but they've actually been consolidated. So they're actually in the development report. Now here on schools, there is nothing, right? So this should say C, or maybe, you know, I don't know whether we need it or not. And this is gone. Building maintenance is gone. So that's basically it. So I need to put this together into a folder for you guys so that you have the data and charts related to the solar. I'll put all that in a folder. Okay, so coming back up here, I sent this to you, Sadaf, so I can take it out now.
Yep, thanks.
And we're back to Cliff. Are you going to go into the OPEB and development reports and get the exhibit references in there? Is that what's going to happen?
I will do that.
And then you will add the exhibits to the back of the report.
Correct.
Okay, so that takes care of those. And I have to do that for solar. Okay, this is just a memo to me. All right, is there anything else you guys can think of here?
No, the one thing I just want to call out, and I put this in an email as well when I sent the template. So I used the template that was originally drafted by the town subcommittee in their report. And so to the extent that you can, Sergio, put your document in that template, it'll make merging it easier.
So where is this template that you're referring to?
I emailed it yesterday to you and to Janet. And
What?
so it just it has a table of contents that will toggle and make it easy to access.
All right, I'll try to find that.
I can resend it to you too if you need. Just
All right, probably just easier. My mind is filled with visas, packing lists.
Oh, I know.
Okay. All right, guys, this has been very helpful. This looks like is this an empty page? It looks like it. All right, I'll save this. Do you guys want me to send you this cleaned up document that we worked on?
Sure.
All right, so we're gonna do a save as here. And I'll send that out. 13th. All right, any other business? Lincoln, did you have anything? No, guess not. So move to adjourn. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye, have a great trip.
Thanks, Trip.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll be talking before that.
All right, bye.